7 train to Lagares land. He covers the entire field. Now he hits home runs. Juan Lagares has been the king of the universe. At Citi Field in New York, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball tonight. The Mets play the Atlanta Braves. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets play in the middle game of their series against the Braves. Mets have won 2 straight, and Juan Lagares has been front and center in both of them. Last night, Lagares showed off all of his abilities. We already know what he can do defensively, but he is doing it all right now.
You know, I think the word I use is adjustments, and it's both defensively and offensively. He's knowing the hitters better. He knows to play the pitcher a couple of steps in. He also knows his pitchers better, where they're going to pitch to, and also knows his speed better and picking up the ball. And then offensively, other than a couple of times on the disabled list, it seems like every single time he's improved just a little bit more, and now showing the power that Terry Collins thought he'd show all along. 2
home runs in the last 3 games after going nearly 3 months without them, and who knows what the ceiling is for Juan Lagares. We're getting a feeling for what Zach Wheeler can accomplish. Over the last 10 starts, he's been unbeatable.
Well, I think the word I'll use from him is improvement, because all year long he's gotten better. When you think about it, on June 18th last year, from that time, exponentially he's gotten better at so many different things. Is the pitch count still high? Yes. Does he walk too many people? Yes. But his competitive level and his ability to pitch through tough stretches has made him into a winner this season.
And his opponent tonight is a guy who's pretty much at the same stage of his career, maybe a little bit more advanced. He's only 23. Julio Teheran is now the Braves' ace.
The only difference, he's on a 6-year contract now with the Braves, but he has been outstanding all year. 12 wins. He should have more with the ERA he has.
So it's the Mets and Braves continuing their series. Mets try and put a further crimp in the Braves' postseason hopes. Mets and Braves, all the action coming your way on Pix 11.
Save big on a great selection at Toyota.
Hurry into your local Tri-Honda dealer for great deals on the 2014 models. By Verizon, introducing Verizon Fios Quantum TV, redefining what TV can be. That's powerful. By Toyota, the annual clearance event is going on now. Toyota, let's go places. By the New York Lottery, hey, you never know. By Nissan, get to Nissan's bottom line event today. Shop ChooseNissan.com. And by Dunkin' Donuts, America runs on Dunkin'. Keys to the game brought to you by your Tri-State Kia retailers. And follow every Mets game with MLB.com at bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Get live look-ins, instant replays, scores, stats, audio, free MLB.tv game of the day, and more. Download on the App Store or visit Mets.com today. As for those keys to the game, tennis theme tonight.
Well, the U.S. Open, it's very appropriate. Tehran is their ace. He has been outstanding all season long. Zach Wheeler, that curveball has gotten better. And Wright took some batting practice today. It looks like he could come back tomorrow. Murphy still day to day.
Both those guys out of the lineup tonight. Mets won without them last night. They'll try and nourish themselves on the Braves again tonight. Zach Wheeler ready to throw the first pitch. That's coming up when we come back to Citi Field. To take the field for the game 2 of this series, looking for their third straight win tonight. Zach Wheeler biding his time. Ready? Let's go, boys. Time to play baseball.
Wouldn't even know he was pitching there, the shot we just had. Calm and cool.
Now, who decides when it's time to take the field?
It used to be the starting pitcher did, but David Wright is usually the one that decides when he's playing.
So maybe because David wasn't playing, nobody knew that it was time to go out.
No, you go.
Well, here is the starting lineup that Wheeler will face, brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Phil Goslin makes just his 10th start for the Braves. He was called up last month. He'll play third base. Tom LaStella at second. They've been sharing that position. B.J. Upton back in the lineup, but not in the top two spots where he's been most of the year. Upton hitting 8th. Another miserable year for him. It's been a great year for Wheeler, particularly these last 10 starts when he's gone 6-0.
6-0, an ERA of 2.12. So the record is moving up. The ERA is coming down. You can see the opponent's average. The whip is a little high just because of the walks. Look at the defense. It's brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. We talked all about Lagares, but what we forgot about in the infield last night is that they had 4 double plays. 2-5-4-3, 1-6-4-3, and then Lucas Duda and Evan Gattis wrestled over there at first base on a double, and then Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate.
First time this year the Mets had turned 4 double plays in a game. Well, 24-year-old Zach Wheeler and 23-year-old Julio Tehran, both really moving up on the food chain. And they get to go head-to-head tonight, something they might do quite often over the next decade. This will be the 4th time that Wheeler faces his hometown team this year. And he's pitched progressively better against the Braves in his 3 starts against them this season. Jason Hayward will lead things off. while we're waiting for the game to start, gives us an opportunity to update the Mets walking wounded. Daniel Murphy did very little today, so it looks like it's going to be another couple of days for him with his calf injury. David Wright took batting practice both inside and outside, trying to recover from the neck spasms that knocked him out on Sunday. He looks like he's a little bit closer. Here's some of David's work during the pregame drills today.
And he looked pretty normal taking batting practice also as we watched him. But I should offer me a couple. I don't know that David Wright goes out and everyone follows him. I just watch it every time and I assume, but that is a guess by me.
The other thing we found out after the game last night is that both Vic Black and Josh Edgin were unavailable, and they're both probably unavailable today. Edgin's got a little elbow tweak, some bone chips, and Black is dealing with a neck injury, had an MRI earlier today, maybe a herniated disc, and we're waiting for more information on that, and hopefully that's nothing too serious. Jason Hayward leads off. Zach Wheeler's first pitch of the night is a fastball outside, and we're underway. Hayward 0 for 4 last night, but he's been a hot hitter. Hayward has had stretches where he's hit leadoff for Freddie Gonzalez last year and this year. And in the games he's led off these last 2 seasons, the Braves are 66 and 44. So it's been a winning combination, and Freddie Gonzalez leaving Hayward at the top. Hits one well out to left field. A long run back for Dendecker near the wall, and it's out of here. An opposite field leadoff home run for Jason Hayward, his 11th home run of the season. And on the 3rd pitch of the game, the Braves take a 1-0 lead.
Gary, last night we spent some time talking about Jason Hayward and how he came on like a supernova and then kind of fizzled out a little bit. Well, when he first came up, this is what everyone thought he would be able to do all the time, and that is have tremendous power the opposite way.
Now Phil Goslin, the rookie, takes a strike. Goslin out of the University of Virginia, 25 years old. Has played some second base, some shortstop. This is his second start at third base for the Braves, and he takes the curveball out of the strike zone, 1-1.
It's kind of like their Eric Campbell, not on anyone's radar, but here in the big leagues.
And if you compare him to a guy that's coming up through the Mets farm system, maybe a little bit like Matt Reynolds, in that he had never put up big numbers until this year in AAA when he hit 344 before his recall.
Reynolds was a bigger prospect, though, coming into the season.
In fact, Goslin wasn't even drafted coming out of high school, and then made his name in college, 5th round draft pick, and here he is in the big leagues. Well, it's the 3rd time in Wheeler's career he's given up a leadoff home run. 2nd one this year, and both times it's been Jason Hayward. Goslin lifts one to right. This one's playable for Granderson, and that's the first out of the night. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Freddie Freeman. Freeman 1 for 4 last night. Freeman having another Freddie Freeman type year. 6th in the National League in on base percentage. 3rd in runs scored. 3rd in doubles. And takes the curveball from Wheeler for a strike. Worth noting, with Wheeler giving up that leadoff home run, Zach has gone 36 starts in which he's allowed no more than 1 home run. It's the 2nd longest streak, or it's the longest streak for the Mets since Dwight Gooden had a streak of 42 straight starts where he didn't give up more than 1 home run. It was actually not during Doc's best era. It was in 1990 and 91 that he had 42 straight starts allowing 1 home run or less. And Zach's given up his 1 for the night. 1-2 to Freeman with 1 out and nobody on. Justin Upton on deck, and he gets him with a curveball. So Wheeler has his first strikeout as Freeman goes down 2 away.
Well, good breaking ball. We had that in the open with the keys to the game, that it has jumped from 10% to almost 15% use of that curveball, and a good one there.
Deuce indeed. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Justin Upton, who had a big night last night, 3 for 3, double RBI. But Upton has never had a hit against Wheeler. He's 0 for 15 against Zach.
I think it's one of the reasons Chris Johnson is not in the lineup and Gosselin was in it, because he has bad numbers also against Zach.
Remember, Wheeler made his major league debut against the Braves last year on what came to be known as Super Tuesday in Atlanta. Harvey in the afternoon, Wheeler at night. Zach was splendid in his first time out. Got the beer shower on the field at Turner Field.
I know. It was the first thing I thought of. Is he 21?
He was.
He was.
There's the strike, 2-1. For Hayward, that was his 7th career leadoff home run, his 4th this year, and his 2nd against Zach Wheeler. Good pitch by Wheeler, running it in on Upton at 98 miles an hour.
Well, unlike Dylan G last night, who threw occasionally in, we'll see Wheeler, because of that 95+ mile an hour fastball, probably try to exploit Upton in.
Upton has struck out 136 times this year. The Braves have a passel of high strikeout guys, and there's the 2nd of the opening inning for Zach Wheeler. So Wheeler gets the next 3 after Hayward delivers the keynote. Opposite field for his 11th home run of the year. And that takes Julio Teheran and the Braves to a 1-0 lead as the Mets come to bat. Let's go places. A little different look tonight with Murphy and Wright out again. Lucas Duda hits 3rd for the first time since early in the 2012 season. Travis d'Arnaud hits cleanup for the first time in his major league career.
And pitching for the Braves tonight, Julio Teheran. He has been outstanding against the National League East all season long. 5-2 with a 2.26 ERA. Just about the same ERA he has over his 27 starts. Remember now, he is the one blessed with the pickoff move when runners are on first base. He's got 3 pickoffs this season. And look at the defense brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. 2 Upton brothers with Jason Hayward in right field. A young, agile infield with Gosselin, Simmons, La Stella, and Freeman. And Evan Yaddis, who's really fit in after the McCann signing by the Yankees. Done a great job behind the plate.
Curtis Granderson will lead things off for New York. Curtis 0 for 2 last night. 7 for his last 57. He's seen his batting average slip below 220. He has really struggled since the All-Star break. He had 2 good months leading up to the break, but not since. And he takes up and in from Teheran. Now, the last time the Mets saw Julio Teheran, they spanked him. That was here right before the break. They got 11 hits and 5 runs against Teheran, knocked him out in the 4th inning.
You know, Gary, I was talking about it with you before the game. The thing I really took away from that game is Teheran was agitated by, he thought it looked like the Mets were hitting a lot of pitches that he didn't usually give up hits on, whether he was tipping his pitches, whether they were getting signs, but he had the paranoia that that was happening.
Granderson tries to lay off and stop the swing in time. Andy Fletcher with a call at third, and it's 3-1. Well, Tehran had a bobble at the beginning of August, had a couple of rough outings in a row, but his last two he's bounced back nicely. 6 scoreless innings in Cincinnati his last time out last Thursday. Granderson takes a strike, a fastball, 3-2. Mike McClinsky is the home plate umpire tonight.
He's called a couple of pitches now on the knees down in the strike zone, so anticipate that for the evening.
3-2, and Granderson pops one foul back and out of play. You know, you talk about Gattis behind the plate. How would you assess how he has done defensively? Because there were a lot of question marks about Gattis' defense.
I've talked to a lot of people about him. C is the report I'm getting from guys that watch him every day. They think he's been a little tired lately, catching a full season. But you know, he's in there for his offense.
You know, we got to look earlier this year. It's the 3-2 to Granderson is fouled off. We look at Christian Betancourt, who is just off the charts defensively and clearly is the heir apparent behind the plate. So the question is, what do they do with Gattis?
Well, they think that their best team might be with Betancourt behind the plate, Gattis out in the outfield, but they have too many outfielders already.
At least for right now. I'm sure they'd love to move one of them in particular. 8th pitch of this opening at bat, and Granderson takes on the inside corner, and he's punched out by McClinsky, and Curtis not too happy about that. And that's the first out.
Curtis didn't like the pitch down, and I think he thought this ball was inside also. Let's see it on the overhead. He's definitely got a beef.
So McClinsky giving Tehran a little bit of a boost. 1 out and nobody on. Here is Lagares, who had a big night last night, 2 for 3, including a 2-run homer in the Mets' 3-2 win. Now the last 4 games, Juan is 7 for 14 with 2 homers and 6 RBIs. Getting a chance to hit in the 2 spot of the batting order tonight with Murphy on the sidelines. It's an interesting question asked of Terry Collins today. If Lagares develops the way the Mets hope that he will, where is the ideal spot for him in the future of the Mets batting order?
He named about 4 different places, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I mean, he's not a big base stealer, and he's not a big on-base percentage guy, at least at this point in his career, so you don't think of him as a leadoff hitter. Would he profile as a 2-hitter? Would he be better off in an RBI spot? Little tapper, they'll never throw him out. Might as well put it in your pocket. Lagares with an infield hit. Swinging bunt couldn't have been placed more perfectly.
Well, we tend to discount this sometimes, but part of being in a good streak are things are going your way. A full swing fooled by the pitch, and he couldn't have thrown it out there any better. In fact, Tehran didn't even play it with his glove. He played it with his right foot, soccer style.
Thought he was going to flip it up hacky sack style. So the Mets have a 1-out base runner, and the full shift is on against Lucas Duda, with Goslin overlapping onto the right side and Simmons alone on the left side. Duda 0 for 3 last night, still 3rd in the National League in home runs with 26, and he hits this one out to center. B.J. Upton easing back, and he'll get there to make the grab, and Lagares goes back to first. It's a ball that if Lagares had to do it again, he probably would have gone back to tag up.
You know, I think, though, when you're on the bases and Lucas Duda looks like he's covered one, Gary, you think that he has the ability to hit it over the head of B.J. Upton. You know, the only way to really hit the ball out of this ballpark to center field is to get some air underneath it. Hard to hit a line drive.
So 2 out, Lagares still at first. Now the newly minted cleanup hitter, Travis d'Arnaud. First time in his career he has batted cleanup for the Mets. And he becomes the 10th different cleanup hitter for the Mets this season.
It's interesting whenever a player has changed positions, whether it's leadoff or third or cleanup. That is the question that Terry Collins gets the most from all the writers. How's he going to possibly deal with hitting cleanup? Just keep hitting like he's hitting. Don't change a thing.
Well, I think what you'd worry about most is a guy thinking, okay, I'm the cleanup hitter. I have to be a different kind of hitter.
Well, maybe because he's a young player. You just see a delay in Washington and Philadelphia.
I think they're having ceremonies honoring the Philadelphia Little League team. 0-2 to d'Arnaud, who went 2 for 3 last night. He has back-to-back multiple hit games.
I think that what people tend to forget is probably Travis d'Arnaud has spent his lifetime hitting third or fourth in a lineup. So I don't think it's that big of a deal or a big adjustment, or just keep swinging like he's swinging.
Tehran ahead 0-2. Lagares runs and d'Arnaud pops it up. The second baseman Listella had vacated. It's the first baseman Freeman who will take charge, and that retires the side. 1 hit and 1 left. 1-0 Braves after 1. Baseball is brought to you by Honda. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda. Zach Wheeler down 1-0 as we go to the second. Evan Gattis will lead off for Atlanta. The Braves started the day a game and a half out of the second wild card spot, tied with Pittsburgh. The Pirates won this afternoon, so Pittsburgh at the moment has vaulted a half game in front of Atlanta, so it's getting a little more crowded for the Braves in that wild card race. Pirates won today for the second straight day on an Ike Davis home run. This one was a monster home run. Gattis fouls one off. The Cardinals are in the top spot, but they lost today. The Giants in the second spot, and the Pirates with that win just a game back of the Giants.
Madison Bumgarner with a fantastic game last night for the Giants.
Bumgarner carried a perfect game into the 8th before Justin Morneau doubled. Pitched a one-hitter, didn't walk a batter, struck out 13 in a 3-0 win. 0-2 to Gattis, and he bounces the breaking ball 1-2.
Gattis had one of the bigger at bats for Atlanta. If you remember last night in the 7th inning, Dylan G had given up a base hit to Justin Upton and then walked Chris Johnson and got Gattis grounded to a 6-4-3 double play.
And then Gattis struck out to end the game against Henry Mejia, and he goes down swinging on the curveball, and Wheeler making strong use of that curve early on. He has struck out the last 3 hitters he's faced.
Well, this is a perfect placement. We talked about before when Wheeler gets ahead of the hitters, when he learns how to put the hitters away, that pitch count will come down. Got ahead of Gattis and perfectly placed curveball.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Tommy La Stella. La Stella 1 for 3 last night. He takes up and in. Still a local kid out of St. Joseph Regional High School in Montvale. Started his college career at St. John's before he transferred to Coastal Carolina. A more conducive baseball weather in Myrtle Beach than in Queens. Certainly one of the warmest days we've had all summer. Been waiting for those 90s. Fastball strike 1-2.
We talked a little bit last night. LaStella's off the plate. Looks like Wheeler's trying to see how far he can go outside to make LaStella chase.
I mean, as a hitter, how do you possibly have plate coverage to the outside corner if you're that far away? Line past the dive of Campbell and down the line, and LaStella's got himself a base hit. And he cruises into second with a 1-out double. Well, Zach didn't get that one away. And LaStella has his 15th double of the year.
Well, they say that he has a ton of these hits. If you don't get it on the outside corner and it splits the plate like this fastball did, he is so adept at hitting the ball the other way that he's been peppering that left side of the infield. A little bit like Murph for the Mets.
Nice effort by Campbell, who had a good game at third base last night. So LaStella's at second with 1 out. Here's Andrelton Simmons. 1 for 3 last night. But he's been struggling. Last 34 games he's hitting .213. He's been battling a hip injury, an ankle injury. And the curveball strike to Simmons. Who's Hot brought to you by Tom Warner Cable. Enjoy better. Nobody hotter than Zach Wheeler. 6-0 in his last 10 starts. First time a Met pitcher has gone 10 straight starts without a loss since all the way back last year when Matt Harvey went 13 straight starts without a loss. Remember him?
I do. He's keeping a low profile, I've heard.
He was around in the clubhouse today. We got a glimpse of Matt. Got a smile and a wave. LaStella at second with 1 out. 1-1 to Simmons with B.J. Upton on deck. Fastball off the plate 2-1. Well, since we brought up Matt Harvey, why not put Wheeler and Harvey side by side?
Well, that's fantastic. Very interesting. ERA, of course, a little better for Harvey in the control, but Zach's a strikeout artist also.
And now with more starts and more innings, LaStella will have to stay put as Tejada throws out Simmons for the second out.
You know, that's one of the things we don't talk about with starting pitchers is durability. Now, he's very young in his career, so we don't see where it's going to happen. Tejada with that crow hop and throw, good running by LaStella there. He got to stay on second. You know, that is over the test of time, especially with the way that you have all this science to find injuries if they exist. It's going to be interesting to see who has the real durability.
Well, Zach is not going to get quite to 200 innings this year, but he might get close to 190, which is a really nice stepping stone into next season and having all the tethers taken off. Of course, he'd have a lot more innings this year if he'd find a way to work some faster innings. It's been his one difficulty this year, throwing fewer pitches to get deeper into games. B.J. Upton hitting at 205, and he takes just below the knees, 2-0. Second straight disappointing year for B.J. Upton after signing a 5-year contract with the Braves. Leading the National League in strikeouts. Pitcher Tehran on deck, and the Mets are going to intentionally walk Upton with first base open and the pitcher on deck. So they tried to tease him on the first two and fell behind 2-0, and he'll get the intentional pass.
Well, this is a move we've seen Terry Collins use. It doesn't matter what the 8th place hitter is hitting. If the pitchers aren't allowed, don't get ahead of the hitter, they're going to intentionally walk him to face the pitcher.
And as a pitcher, how does that work for you?
Well, I think it's as you get more advanced, more experience, I think that the manager will give you more time. You see that numbers after 2-0 count.
That's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
You would figure after a 2-0 count, it'd be the one time that even a struggling hitter would thrive. But that's how bad it's been for Upton. Here's Tehran, 5 for 55 this year with 4 RBIs. And he takes a strike. So what you're saying is, for a more experienced pitcher, if he's behind 2-0, he'll know how to approach that count, and you trust him more.
Yeah, he won't give in to the hitter. So even though he might walk him, it'll be where he allows the hitter, the 8th place hitter, to try to get himself out on pitches out of the strike zone.
Two on and 2 out, and Tehran takes the curveball for a strike as he started to bail out. 1-2.
Be something interesting to look at, though. What's a pitcher's ERA in the next inning following getting the pitcher out after walking the 8th place hitter?
Right, because it's not this inning where you might feel it. It's the next one where you have to face that leadoff hitter as opposed to having the automatic out lead off. Jason Hayward on deck. 2 out, 2 on, 2-2 to Tehran. And he slaps one down to first. Duda handles it, and the side retired. A double and 2 left. Mets down 1-0 in the second. For Jacob deGrom's next scheduled start when the Mets host the Phillies at 7:10. Purchase 4 field level tickets for just $48. Get to Mets.com/deGrom. Certainly is an event every time Jacob takes the mound these days. Made his first start back from the disabled list in Los Angeles. Didn't have his best game by any means.
Didn't you have some kind of shampoo story about?
Well, somebody. We were talking about Vic Black's neck before, and Vic said that he first felt the pain in his neck when he was washing his hair, and some wag commented on Twitter that fear for Jacob deGrom.
That he might have a full bulging disc at some point.
Well, we're hoping that Vic is okay. You know, Bobby Parnell went through that neck problem last year, and we're being told that it's not a similar issue to what Bobby went through, because that cost him the rest of the season, as it turned out. But Vic had an MRI on his neck today, and hoping that the results are positive. Positive in terms of a short duration of the injury. Here's Eric Campbell, 0 for 4 last night, getting a second straight start at third base with David Wright out of the lineup. And Tehran comes inside for ball 1. Campbell, Dendecker, and Flores for the Mets in the second. lifts one to right center, and it'll be Hayward coming over to get it. One away. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Matt Dendecker. Dendecker has not started the last 2 games. He's been struggling.
Well, he made the Pacific Coast All-Star team for his work and play in AAA. Hitting as well as he did in any part of his minor league career, and it hasn't translated here.
He swung the bat well when he first came up, continuing what had been a very hot streak in Vegas, but that has dissipated of late. Did have a nice opposite field double his last at bat in Los Angeles on Saturday. He had a pinch hit single on a Sunday. Wilmer Flores on deck. And Tehran keeping it away from Dendecker, who's been rolling over on a lot of those outside pitches lately. So I'm sure that's the scouting report right now. What do we call that particular cloud formation?
I don't know. Beautiful though.
Is that your cumulus, your stratocumulus, your nimbus?
I feel like a nimbus because I don't know what cloud formation that is.
See, when I used to work with Bob Murphy, we had that covered. Murph was a weatherman in the Marines.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he knew all about the clouds. Could identify a cumulus from a cirrus, from a nimbus. 3-1 coming to Dendecker, and a high fly ball hit to right. Hayward should have run onto the warning track. 2 out. A lot of air under that ball off the bat of Dendecker.
You see, Hayward has pointed to B.J. Upton, saying that he lost that ball a little bit in this sky here, just telling him to help me out.
Lost it in the nimbus?
In the nimbus, I guess.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Wilmer Flores. Flores 0 for 3 last night, but looked awfully good in the middle of several double plays last night as the Mets turned 4 double plays.
Well, there was a quickness. His hands were quick, but also he showed a fantastic arm in turning those double plays.
Tehran getting behind the hitters here in the second inning, but the Mets so far unable to take advantage.
I usually don't say this. I don't really care how he plays defense. I really want to see him get on fire offensively.
So what you're saying is the inverse of the old statement, if you can hit, they'll find a place for you. You're saying if you don't hit, they're never going to find a place for you.
Well, I agree. I think that's his strength, is that he's always been a guy they think is going to be that kind of hitter. You know, 40 doubles, that kind of guy.
And Tehran again behind on the count, 3-1.
And just like Dendecker, another guy that tremendous year in AAA.
Well, you know, how much of that is the Vegas factor? Although Darno came back from Vegas and kept on hitting. And Flores hits one to deep left center. Back goes Justin Upton onto the track. Back at the wall. It's out of here. There's the power from Wilmer Flores, his second home run. And he ties the game at 1. Now Flores' only other home run came in Philadelphia, a grand slam in a lopsided game. But here a tying home run in the second inning. Now Ruben Tejada. Ruben 1 for 3, drove in a run last night, getting his 3rd straight start at shortstop.
Well, Tehran, who lives in the bottom part of the strike zone, leaves this ball middle of the plate in. And this is what you want to see from Wilmer. You want to see those kind of shots, those kind of home runs, power.
First Mets run of the game brought to you by the New York Lottery. lottery. Hey, you never know. First time of the inning, Teheran's been ahead on the count, and he gets Tejada with a slider to end the inning. Second strikeout for Teheran, but the Mets get even on one big swing from Wilmer Flores. 1-1 game after 2.
Get to City.
Al, how do you have such a nice looking family? How did that happen?
Al's a nice guy, you know. Away from here.
Mets and Braves tied 1-1 as we go to the third inning. Solo home run on each side. Jason Hayward had the first one, an opposite field shot to lead off the game. And Wilmer Flores providing the equalizer in the second.
So if a guy in the first inning shocks you, hits a ball on the middle part away for a home run away, let's see if Wheeler will counter with pitches in, breaking balls down and in.
I've got an interesting question for you in that regard. As Wheeler throws the first one to Hayward, a curveball that sits high. You got a player who in this ballpark last year got hit in the face by one of Wheeler's teammates. Saw it happen. Does that make pitchers a little more reluctant to pitch him inside as Wheeler makes that play himself? And the late flip almost couldn't get it out of the glove. First he thought he was going to take it himself, and the panic set in and he got the out.
Yeah, this play you want to take by yourself only because the short exchange makes it difficult not only for you but also the first baseman. It's kind of like a juggling act right there by Wheeler. What was your question again?
About Hayward getting hit in the face last year. Does it make maybe some of the Met pitchers more reluctant to pitch him up and in?
That's an interesting question. At this level, I would hope that you never have any feelings like that. That's just something that happened. Hayward has come back 100%, and the only way really to get him out is to pitch him in. So I would say no, Gary.
Well, Wheeler clearly not shy about pitching Goslin in on that first pitch. And the only reason that I said that is because he's got the guard over his jaw where he got hit by Nice last year, and that's kind of a living reminder. As Goslin drops down a beauty of a bunt. Wheeler though with a bare hand play, low throw, and it skips on by. Backed up by Flores, and Goslin will stay at first.
Well, this is the kind of player that Goslin is. He's one of those guys that is a grinder. But see how long it took Wheeler to kind of get rid of that baseball, and that's a play that, I mean, impossible for Lucas to scoop it, but he might want to come off and kind of trap it and keep it in front of him. But that long arm action is not going to. He did not have a play. You probably want your third baseman there to say, don't throw it. Don't throw it. Keep it.
So after Wheeler came up and in to Goslin, he drops down a bunt on the next pitch. And he's aboard with the third Atlanta hit.
You know, and the other thing I'm saying, Gary, never do you as a pitcher, even if you're angry at someone, ever throw inside at his head. You know, you'll throw inside waist high, maybe make him move his feet, but anything that's up and in today's game would be a total mistake.
Right, but aren't there some pitchers, and haven't there been some over the years, who feared throwing inside because they worried about hitting people?
I mean, I can't answer that because I would never ever feel that way, but I can see that happening, that they wouldn't want to. I would say that if anyone felt that way, Jonathan Neese would feel that way because he's the one that threw the pitch.
And that's got to be hard, right? To erase that from your memory. Hayward's been hit by 5 pitches this year, none by the Mets. 0-2 to Freeman, and he takes one the other way toward the left field line. Dendecker over toward the corner. It's a fair ball. Stays in play. Goslin goes to third, and into second is Freeman with an opposite field double. 37th double of the year for Freeman. It came on an 0-2 pitch.
Well, what makes Freddie Freeman so difficult to pitch to is that he can go coast to coast. That pitch was not that bad of a pitch. Nice play by Dendecker to get to this ball and kind of keep it in play and keep Goslin from scoring. But that's just, what, 3 feet fair.
So the Braves have second and third and 1 out. Mets will keep the infield back. They'll concede the go-ahead run on a ground ball. Justin Upton, the batter. Upton struck out his first time up, and Wheeler could use one of those right now. Four hits now for the Braves against Wheeler, who was not at his best in his last start in Oakland last Wednesday, but he had some bad defense played behind him as well. In fact, he became the first Met pitcher this year to win a game in which he gave up 4 runs. That should happen more than once, shouldn't it?
You would hope over the course of a year.
It gives you an idea, though, just how much offense is down this year, that most days, these days, 4 runs is going to be enough to beat you.
Well, there was some talk even when we started this job 9 years ago that 4 runs over 7 innings is a pretty good start.
Game's changed, as it always does. Goslin at third, Freeman at second, and 1 out. And a nice looking fastball on the inside corner, 1-2 to Upton.
Well, it's been interesting. Usually a good hitter, you cannot just pitch over and over in one spot, but they have done that to Upton with that fastball in.
Well, still looking for his first hit against Wheeler after striking out his first time up tonight.
This is, do you go to the well again, or is he so conscious of inside that you can throw any kind of breaking pitch away? I'd opt for the breaking pitch away. At least show him something different.
1-2. Soft ground ball that'll get the run in. Flores throws out Upton. Goslin comes in to score. It's 2-1 Atlanta. So Upton makes contact, drives in his 88th run of the year. That's third in the National League, his second RBI in this series.
Well, that's a heck of an at-bat. To break a bat and get sawed off like that, you say to yourself, boy, the pitcher won. But really, Upton won by putting the ball in play.
And so often for this Atlanta team, that's been a big challenge. They're such an all-or-nothing, high home run, high strikeout team. Making contact in those situational moments has been a big challenge. And that time Upton did. Here's Gaddis, and he takes a strike.
If the inning prior you had gotten B.J. Upton out, then Tehran would probably have been the first out, and Upton's ground ball would have been the third out. I mean, that's if.
Right.
But
no,
it's supposed to show you when you have the leadoff hitter starting.
You know, it's interesting, Ronnie. When I first started this job, it was 25 years ago, nobody walked the number 8 hitter to get to the pitcher. It just didn't happen. The first manager I ever saw do it was Jeff Torborg when he was the Mets manager starting in '92. And it's become a more frequent occurrence for a lot of teams. But I wonder on balance if it's even possible to figure out whether it's a positive play or not.
I don't know if it's possible to figure it out. You're right.
You know, how often does the number 8 hitter get the big hit? How often, when you walk the number 8 hitter, does a team score? 2-1 to Gaddis. Curveball, 2-2.
Well, that's where you've seen Wheeler different from last season, a year ago. 2-1, behind in the count. It's not always a fastball.
Going right back to the curve on 2-2. And Gaddis makes contact and bangs it off his leg. Foul ball. You talked about Wheeler's more frequent use of his curveball. I'm not sure we've ever seen him throw a higher percentage of curves than he has so far tonight. Again, the 2-2. And Gaddis breaks his back, grounds it to Tejada. He boots it, and a run scores. Against Gaddis, who can't run a lick, Tejada had plenty of time, but he had a trickle out of his glove. Freeman comes in to score, and it's 3-1 Atlanta.
Well, we mentioned in his last start in Oakland that Wheeler did not get a lot of defensive help. And this in-between hop here by Gaddis to Tejada, it's right in the pocket, but kind of shovels it out.
That is a bad error in a bad spot. So 2 runs are home in the inning. And now Tommy La Stella, who doubled the other way his first time up, and takes a fastball off the plate for ball 1.
That play was taught years ago, that you fielded it with 2 hands and threw from like the submarine position. It's not taught that way anymore. It's one-handed exchange and then over the top.
You know, I can understand an error like that if you got a fast guy going down the line, but you got Evan Gaddis going down the line. You got to know you got forever to make the play.
He could have kind of broke down instead of charging it like he did. Just a bad choice by Ruben.
Now Wheeler behind 2-0 on La Stella, and now 3-0.
We're talking about a big guy with a huge swing, so it takes him a while to get out of the box. He's also catching every day, so when you're catching every day, you are not busting. But once he saw it come out of the glove, Tejada, he tried to step on it a little bit.
La Stella walks on 4 pitches, so Wheeler may be a little bugged after that error, which prolonged the inning. His second walk, the first one was intentional. And now Andrelton Simmons. And, you know, again, the prolonging of the inning, not Wheeler's fault, but following it up with the walk. And here he's about to throw his 60th pitch in the 3rd inning, and the high pitch count is starting to bite him again. 17.5 pitches per inning. That's the 4th highest total in the major leagues this year. Here's Simmons, and he takes the breaking ball in the dirt, knocked down by Darno, 1-0.
Well, you talked about him throwing so many breaking balls. He's starting not to throw it in the strike zone, so it's costing him the count. But Gary, for our folks at home, most people know it, of course, but you want to try to stay under 15 an inning if you can.
Flores lays back on it, throws out Simmons, side retired. But the Braves score a pair on a ground out and an error and lead 3-1 in the 3rd. Baltimore game with the Braves tomorrow night. That's on SNY. Then the Phillies come in for 3 games over the weekend. Then the Mets go to Miami and Cincinnati to start the month of September. Mets down 3-1. Zach Wheeler will lead off in the 3rd. Well, the Cubs were here recently, and we got to talk quite a bit about all of their prospects, both in the majors and on their way. The latest call up for the Cubs was the young outfielder Jorge Soler. Made his first start today for the Cubs in Cincinnati. Homer his first time up.
If you're an everyday player in the National League, you want to open up your first game Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Colorado.
Wheeler rolls one down to Freeman, and Tehran gets over to cover. Well, it was last month that Javier Baez hit a 12th inning home run to win a game for the Cubs in his major league debut.
But more importantly, I was here for that game on Monday just for a short time, 4 or 5 innings, because I wanted to watch a young pitcher. How far was that home run that Baez hit that day?
The one he hit in the second deck in left center in Mark Reynolds territory?
It was Mark Reynolds kind of film. Wow.
But, the thing about Baez that was interesting watching him throughout that series is he swung so hard and swung at everything early in the series, and the Mets started pitching him out of the strike zone, and he got a little more patient as the series went along, and then got some pitches to hit and didn't miss.
Beware of those young hitters that learn within the series.
Granderson took a call, 3rd strike his first time up. By the way, a few years ago when Starlin Castro came up, he homered in his first big league at bat. Some guys know how to hit the ground running. Just wait till they bring up Chris Bryant. The Cubs, if they can find any pitching at all, are going to be a force to be reckoned with the next few years if these prospects turn out to be anywhere near what people expect.
Or it's the cruelest joke ever played on Cubs fans ever.
The offensive equivalent of Generation K.
There you go. Tehran works very quickly, doesn't he, for a young pitcher? No messing around.
He's 23 years old, a native of Colombia. Same nation that produced Mets second base prospect Dilson Herrera. Low and in, full count. And Granderson pokes one to the right side. LaStella is there to play it, and Tehran gets over to cover for the 4-1 putout.
Well, that's a good example why, as a pitcher, you never stop going to first base. Freeman went for it, couldn't get there, but Tehran there in plenty of time. Little changeup, and watch him. It's almost like he's running before the ball was hit. Great awareness there by Tehran.
So after being handed the lead, Tehran's retired the first 2 here in the 3rd. And there's Juan Lagares, who topped one up the third baseline for an infield hit his first time up. It gives him 8 hits in his last 15 at bats. Roger McDowell, who has done an extraordinary job again this year, patching together the Braves rotation and their bullpen.
Well, there were some years there where it was almost automatic with O'Flaherty, Venters, then to Kimbrel, but they signed that free agent Santana. Tehran's been outstanding.
Aaron Harang has been a godsend. Simmons takes charge of the pop-up. 1-2-3 inning for Tehran, his first of the night. After 3 at Citi Field, Braves 3, Mets 1. Field. Braves with a 3-1 lead. 8-9-1 of the order coming up for Atlanta against Zach Wheeler, who gave up a bunt hit, an opposite field double, a ground out, and an error to produce 2 runs in the last inning. B.J. Upton was intentionally walked his first time up.
The time we've seen B.J. in a Braves uniform, he's gone back and forth from the sports glasses to not. Had a recent history of guys that have gone in and out of having problems with their eyesight. McCann was the first one, Freeman was the second, and Upton's had some issues the last couple of years.
Well, going all the way back to Greg Maddux, who got laser surgery in the middle of a season, much to the Braves' dismay. Worked out okay. Curveball in the corner, 1-2. Haven't seen much of Wheeler's slider tonight. It's been mostly curveballs.
He's tried it a couple times. It just other than maybe the strikeout to Freeman, although that was a hard curveball, maybe slider, not many. The hardest part for me watching B.J. Upton is that I saw him have a postseason in 2008, I believe, that was rivaled by no one I've seen in recent history. Maybe David Freese in 2011.
Gets jammed and rolls one out for Flores. 1 out. Well, when BJ has been at his best, he has a great combination of speed and power and grace in the outfield. But nothing has gone right for him since he put on a Braves uniform.
Well, you know what's interesting is that the players that Tampa Bay has had let go because they couldn't afford him, Cole Crawford, has not been a better player than he was with Tampa Bay, and neither has BJ.
Here's Julio Teheran, who grounded out his first time up. How would you assess James Shields in that regard?
A big plus, a big, huge plus. And you don't even talk about the other guy in that trade, Wade Davis.
Right.
Shields is one of those starting pitchers, and they're very rare, that is a leader of a staff. He's like a captain of their starting staff.
Strike 3 called. Teheran is out. 4th strikeout for Wheeler.
I believe Shields is a free agent after the season, so.
Well, I don't think the Royals are thinking about that right now.
No.
They're thinking about getting to the postseason for the first time since 1985.
Nice 4-seamer there. The ball comes so true out of his hands, and it carries right to its spot. There's no sinking action, no cutting action, just pure straight line.
Did you see the dust up in Kansas City this morning with Ned Yost's comments? Royals won a thriller last night. 2-run walk-off home run from Alex Gordon. They're up a game and a half in their division. As we said, haven't been in the postseason in 29 years. And there was a pitch inside to Jason Hayward. And then Ned Yost, after the game, instead of talking about the great win, talked about the fact there were only 13,000 people in the stands, and drew a lot of flack in the Kansas City media for that.
Well, my recollections are the fans are still undefeated when it comes to making comments against them, especially when you haven't been in the postseason since '85.
Flores fields the grounder, throws out Hayward. Wheeler has his first 1-2-3 inning of the night. Mets come to bat with Duda to lead off, trailing 3-1. Order coming up against Julio Teheran. That's got a home run from Wilmer Flores in the second inning. Teheran's allowed only one other base runner, and that was an infield single off the bat of Juan Lagares. Here's your Verizon Fios high-speed pitch. Zach Wheeler's topped out at 98 miles an hour tonight, and Teheran at 93. Duda flied out to center field his first time up. Lucas hitting third in the order tonight. Back in 2011, Duda hit third 16 times. Early in 2012, he hit third once, and this is the first time since.
This is a big shift. You were talking about Gosselin moves from third base over there because he plays some second base, so that makes a lot of sense. And keep Platinum over there at short.
Curveball sits high for ball one. Well, the last 2 years, the Platinum glove in the National League was Molina and Simmons. Now, Molina obviously missed a lot of time this year, and Simmons hasn't had quite as good a season as he did last year. There's a good changeup by Teheran, 1-1.
Said there's a chance that Yadier Molina could be back as early as Friday.
Just started his rehab assignment in Springfield last night, as did Michael Wacha. It'll be a big plus if they can get him back as well. Teheran staying with the off-speed stuff and gets ahead on Duda 1-2. He might not see a fastball the rest of the season, by the way.
That might be a good thing in his development because he's going to have to figure out how to stay back on that breaking ball.
Teheran takes care of Duda with that slider, his third strikeout.
Not in his slider, but it looks like he took a little bit off of that pitch also. So both fooled Lucas. Teheran has very long fingers, and that allows him to really manipulate that baseball.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Travis d'Arnaud, who popped up his first time up. When they made the trade for Justin Upton, had to make the call on their two young, highly regarded pitchers. They had Randall Delgado and Julio Teheran, and they decided to keep Teheran and trade Delgado. They could not have made a much better choice.
And it's something that maybe Mets management at some point might have to look at also in weighing, all of their really good, talented young pitchers.
d'Arnaud breaks his bat and rolls it out to La Stella, and that's the second out. So the question is, if you're dealing from a position of strength and you have a lot of depth, and the Mets have a lot of depth in their young starting pitching, do you trade the guy who brings you the most back? Do you trade the guy who you consider the least of the bunch? How do you make that decision?
Well, always the best player is going to get you their best player, but I think let's say they're all equal. I think one of the things that's overrated in baseball is scouting your own player. How do you scout him? So I think that if I were looking at a player, and I know management does this also, you're looking at all of the different things. You're looking at how hard he works, his makeup. When he has guys on base, does he toughen up or does he wilt a little bit? Is he a guy who's a good teammate? All of those things come into play. But then the bottom line becomes, sometimes it's not who you identify. Sometimes it's the team that is trading with you identifies that pitcher and says, I've got to have him or there's no deal. And that's when it gets real tough.
Well, you hope they guess wrong.
Yeah.
Campbell muscles one out to center. Upton coming on. And it's another 1-2-3 inning for Julio Teheran. He's retired 7 in a row since the Flores home run after 4, 3-1 Braves. Mets game. Purchase any size hot coffee with your Perks Enrolled Dunkin' Donuts card for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Go to firstcupfirstpitch.com to enter. Fifth inning, 3-1 Atlanta. Phil Gosselin got the Braves 2-run third inning started with a bunt single, and he'll lead off against Zach Wheeler in the fifth. Gosselin got some brief time with the Braves last year, but his first real test at the big league level this year. He's got 48 at bats after hitting .344 in AAA this year, after never hitting over 300 in any prior minor league season. And he takes inside ball one, and he wasn't even aided by the thin air of the Pacific Coast League. We were talking earlier about the Mets and some of their offensive exploits at AAA because Las Vegas is a very tough place to pitch, thin air, hard infield, all those factors. It's looking more and more as though the Mets are going to get stuck in Las Vegas for 2 more years. And for all the happy talk that has been disseminated the last couple of days about that prospect, the fact of the matter is that's the last place the Mets want to be.
Well, the Minnesota Twins just recently re-upped with Rochester, right?
That's where the Mets were hoping maybe they'd have an opening to get back on the East Coast. But because of the distance and because of the conditions in Vegas, it has been the AAA outlet of last resort for whoever winds up landing there. And the Mets drew the short straw 2 years ago, and after 2 years there, it looks like they're getting 2 more.
Well, the challenging part of it for me is that what happens to a ball club is you could lose a player overnight, and you need a player the next day for a game, and even if it's a night game.
This curveball to get Gosselin looking. 5 strikeouts for Wheeler.
The travel all night makes it very challenging for the player to come in and be on top of his game.
Right. I mean, there are teams that have perfect situations, like the Braves, who have their AAA team in suburban Atlanta in Gwinnett County. The Red Sox, who have their AAA team at Pawtucket, 40 minutes away from Boston. I mean, those are the situations you dream of. I mean, in an ideal world, and it can't happen because of a number of factors, Mets would love to have their AAA team in Brooklyn instead of having their short season team there. Freddie Freeman's 1 for 2, doubled and scored a run in the third inning. That was a strike, 1-1. There's the slider we were waiting for. Did it really go from 90 to 78?
That's quite a drop.
We might have a malfunction. Wheeler behind now on Freeman, 3-1. Zach has walked 2, 1 intentionally, struck out 5, allowed 3 runs and 4 hits, 1 of the runs unearned. And a 3-1 curveball misses. So Wheeler pitching carefully to Freeman, who's on with the 1-out walk.
I've thrown that pitch many times, Gary, and after you throw it, you say to yourself, what was I thinking? You can't throw that pitch there in front of Upton. Although the numbers are now what, 0 for 17? Just Upton when he's red hot. It doesn't matter what his numbers are.
Upton tonight has struck out and grounded out. The ground out produced a run. And the slider off the plate for ball 1.
I'd be very surprised, even though he's 27 years old, that at some point Upton doesn't look inside and kind of bails and wails, looks for that pitch inside.
Evan Gattis waiting on deck. Freeman at first and 1 out. And Upton bounces one foul. 2-1. Mets and Braves are playing for the 15th time this year. So far, they're all even. 7 wins apiece.
Bullpen edge onto the Mets.
And significantly, before tonight, the Braves had gone 9 straight games without a home run against the Mets. That changed on the 3rd pitch of this game when Hayward went deep.
I was just looking at that bullpen ERA because traditionally the Braves have always had the unhittable bullpen, but the Mets have gotten so much better this season.
Two and two to Upton. He just got a piece of that one. B.J. Upton was the number 2 overall pick in the draft. Justin Upton was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. 3 years apart.
Almost like the Drew family, right? Tim, Steven, and J.D.
Double play ball if they hurry. The turn by Flores, and they double up Upton, side retired. 6-4-3 double play ends the inning. Another nice turn by Flores in the middle. Halfway through at Citi Field, 3-1 Atlanta. Weekday, join Suki, Corey, and the gang from 5 to 9 on the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. Matt Dendecker leads off for the Mets in the home 5th inning. That's got a home run from Wilmer Flores in the 2nd. Since then, Julio Teheran has retired 7 in a row.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't seen Dendecker try to lay a bunt down, have we? Since he's been up?
Don't believe that we have.
Yeah.
Matt hit a towering fly ball to the warning track in right field his first time up. And the curveball from Teheran in for a strike. Well, the last time the Mets faced Julio Teheran, they knocked him out in the 4th inning and pummeled him for 11 hits. Different story so far tonight. 6 days earlier, Tehran had held the Mets to a run and 4 hits in 7 innings.
Those back-to-back starts can sometimes get you.
And you mentioned earlier the confusion that Tehran showed in that start here at Citi Field before the All-Star break, feeling as though maybe the Mets were picking up his pitches or in some respects right on what he was throwing. That does not appear to be the case tonight.
Seems a little more full steam ahead.
Two and two to Den Decker, leading off in the home fifth, with Flores waiting on deck. And that with a late swing foul hangs in there at 2 and 2.
Well, Tehran is one of those young pitchers who has learned to not overthrow. And that pitch right there was 94 miles an hour because he knew it was a hitter's count. He knew he had to come with a fastball. He added a little bit. You don't see that happen very often. Most guys are 100% full out every pitch.
Two. And the curveball sits high. What's interesting about Tehran is he's 23 years old. He's already thrown, including tonight, 186 innings. He's going to be well over 200. This is a team that aspires to go to the postseason. You don't see too many pitchers this age at this kind of innings level these days. He threw 185 last year and then one postseason start.
But if any team in baseball pushes their pitchers, starters and relievers, it's the Atlanta Braves.
Tehran started the night third in the National League in innings pitched, which is a spot you would think would be filled by a more veteran pitcher. 3-2 to Den Decker, and he struck him out. 4 strikeouts for Tehran. He's retired 8 in a row. 1 out and nobody on. Wilmer Flores coming up, and we check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Well, guys, Flores has had baseball in his life since he was a little kid, and he got hooked really in his hometown of Valencia, Venezuela. The winter ball team of Magallanes, they played in his hometown. He would go to those games all the time. His favorite player, Edgardo Alfonso, who ironically he would later play against in winter ball. I think Alfonso's last year playing there, he played against him. And then, of course, you know, here under the tutelage of Alfonso in spring training this year. But there was other connections for Flores in his time. He played for a little league team called La Polar. He said basically you're about 6 years old and you join these equivalent to little league teams here, and you play with the same kids for about 6-7 years. So our team never won, but what would happen is the team in the area that won that area would then go to the playoffs, and then you'd play teams from other states in Venezuela, and the team that went to the playoffs could pick a player or two from the losing team. So for a couple of years in a row, he got picked to be on the winning team. One of the good players in that team, Salvador Perez, the great young catcher for the Kansas City Royals. So those two remain friends. As a matter of fact, Perez's mom and Flores' mom are now great friends. They live next to each other, and they swap stories about playing in the major leagues as they are right now. So pretty cool. A guy that got hooked on winter ball, rooting for Edgardo Alfonso, then got to play against him. Finally told him when he got to this organization how much he liked him, and learned a little something from him too. So cool connections for Flores coming up through Venezuela and now New York Met.
And there's ball 4, and Flores is on. You know, when Fonzie started out in the Mets farm system, he was a shortstop, and they eventually moved him off short, and he became a second baseman and a third baseman, much the way Flores has had to move.
You see his minor league career numbers, and his numbers in Vegas which were outstanding. I didn't get to see Fonzie play a lot, much to my chagrin. Could he have played shortstop in the major leagues?
Probably so. The only reason they moved him is because they had a guy named Ray Ordonez.
One of the best ever.
Yeah. Making everybody's eyes pop out at short. Here's Tejada, who struck out his first time up. Flores at first and 1 out. There are a few better to have as a hero and or mentor than Edgardo Alfonso.
Have not heard one bad thing ever said about him from people he played against, but even more importantly, the people that played with him. Just an incredible teammate.
Consummate teammate, great instincts for the game, and he could hit. You know, you think about him as a glue guy, but he could hit.
You know, it's interesting what Kevin said, you know, because here in the States we just went through the Little League World Series, and those were all-star teams kind of the league. You see Alfonso, his numbers, all-time great, and that is, he's the best all-time, right? One of the best position players ever. Is that they seem to do it more of a Pop Warner style. I don't know if folks know Pop Warner is the football leagues where you play with a bunch of guys for a bunch of kids for a number of years. Like in my area, you would learn how to play football with a bunch of guys, and you'd learn the same offense as the high school offense. So when you were ready to go, you already knew how to play the Delaware wing tee or the wishbone attack, or I mean, there was no pro-style offenses in those days.
Well, there's got to be something to be said for competing at the higher levels, the district, national, international levels, with guys you played with for years as opposed to guys you've been playing with for a month. Flores at first and one out. Tejada hits one just foul. Third base umpire Andy Fletcher right there, and he barely missed that chalk.
Well, the hardest call for any umpire when they're on the bases is that ball right at them. They usually put that left foot right on the line, and if they have to move inside at all, it lets them know that maybe that looked like the Beltran ball, but foul.
Difference was Beltran's ball was fair. Don't tell Johan. 1-2 to Tejada. By the way, I've heard people say, I may have this wrong, but I've heard people say that if replay had been in effect when Santana threw his no-hitter, that he wouldn't have had the no-hitter. But wasn't the ball that Beltran hit in front of the umpire?
In front of the umpire.
If it's in front of the umpire, it's not reviewable.
That's right.
So it would not have changed the outcome of the no-hitter.
Johan, he doesn't care any debate.
No.
It's in the books.
And it's up to somebody else to match him.
That's right.
Hey, Kevin.
2-2 coming, and Tejada lifts one to shallow right center. Hayward over, and that's the second out. Well, the Mets have such an interesting and talented crew of young pitchers moving up, with Wheeler and Harvey and DeGrom already here, and Syndergaard and Matz and all the rest on the way. You know, everybody was waiting and waiting and waiting for the guy from those earlier groups, whether it was the Seaver, Kuzman, Ryan Matlack group or the Gooden, Darling, Fernandez, Ojeda group. Somebody, right? Now maybe this new group will put together the second one. Tehran throws out Wheeler to end the inning. A walk in, one left after 5. 3-1 Braves. Ball is brought to you by the 2014 Mazda 3 with seamless connectivity. Zach Wheeler goes back to the mound for the 6th inning. 89 pitches under his belt. Again, those high pitch innings really costing Zach a chance to go deeper into games. It's been a recurring theme.
Well, they'd like to somehow connect a couple more zeros here to keep the Mets close.
Seamlessly?
Yes.
Evan Gattis leads off in the 6th inning. Gattis, La Stella, and Simmons for the Braves. Atlanta 3 runs, 4 hits. The Mets 1 run, 2 hits as we start the 6th. Gattis is struck out, and then in the 3rd inning with 2 out and a runner at 3rd, hit a routine ground ball to short that flipped out of Ruben Tejada's glove for an error as a run scored to make it 3-1. Gattis, who has awesome power, takes a fastball for a strike. 20 home runs this year. First Braves catcher since Earl Williams to put together 20 home run seasons in his first 2 big league years.
You know, we probably don't give him enough credit as La Stella waits on deck for his hitting ability, but his stance just looks like all he wants to do is hit it 500 feet.
All that is his goal. As it is with so many of these Braves, I mean, we've talked incessantly the last couple of years about what an all or nothing team they are. The problem that the Braves have had this year compared to last season is, as Gattis hooks one foul, is they just haven't hit enough home runs to justify that kind of approach. They're still 3rd in the league in most strikeouts, but they're only the 7th in the league in home runs.
Well, last year they had 180 plus. I think they led the National League, and this year 108, 109.
It's going to be hard for them to get close to last year's number. 2-2 from Wheeler, and he struck him out with a slider. 6 strikeouts for Wheeler. There's Greg Walker, the Braves hitting coach, who will tell you that their approach is not to hit home runs.
Well, I pitched against Greg Walker. Good slider here. We're asking where it was. There was one right there. Pitched against Greg Walker, and he was from that school of hitting the ball out of the ballpark.
Of course, the problem with that approach is twofold. One is that power doesn't come to play every day, and you have to be able to produce runs in other fashions, otherwise you're going to lose a lot of games. And there's some of the numbers on the Braves. They're 12th in runs scored this year because their home run production is down. But the other piece of that is La Stella hits one down the left field line, and Dendecker will watch it go out of play, is that when you get to the postseason, if you're fortunate enough to get there, you generally face a higher level of pitching, and it's harder to bombard teams with your power, and you have to be able to produce runs to win.
For most of the time, you're eliminating the 4th and 5th starter for every team, and the teams that make it are the teams that have put together ball clubs that have 3 starters, like the Dodgers or like the Tigers, that when they have it, you have to scratch out a couple runs to maybe get a tie or a victory late.
Maybe take advantage of an infield fly rule call. Braves know all about that. By the way, speaking of the Tigers and their 3 stars, one of them didn't have such a good night tonight.
Right.
David Price gave up 9 straight hits against the Yankees. There were those wild card standings with the Braves a game and a half back in the 2nd spot. Slap to the left side, big hop for Tejada, and he throws out La Stella 2 out.
And whenever we see that graphic, my eyes don't go to the top; they go to the bottom with the Marlins.
The Marlins are still hanging around, 4 games out. There you see the Yankees, 9 straight hits against David Price. How do you do that?
They might have to throw out Andrew Romine again. The Tigers pitched him the other day.
Of course, maybe it's just the odds evening out. Price only allowed 1 hit in his last game,
but he lost 1-0 to his old teammates.
What was it? An error and a triple. And those are the only base runners he allowed all night.
That's right. Alex Cobb. Can't say he outpitched him, but Alex Cobb threw 6 or 7 shutout innings.
Simmons has been up twice, grounded out both times. And Wheeler falls behind him 2-0. Simmons is the guy in the lineup you don't strike out. You don't walk him either. Usually puts the ball in play early in the count. And he hammers the curveball down to third. Big hop for Campbell. And a 1-2-3 inning for Zach Wheeler in the top of the 6th. Mets will try and get him some runs. Top of the batting order coming up with the Mets down 3-1. It's the celebrity name game with Craig Ferguson, and it premieres this September right here on Pix 11.
Is that a charades kind of thing, you think?
I think we'll find out more as we get closer.
Okay.
It's one of those slow rollouts, right? Little tease. Find out more as we go along.
Craig Ferguson, he makes me laugh. Have you watched him?
Very fun.
Yeah. And I'm also a sucker for the Scottish accent.
Right. Isn't everybody? That and bagpipes. Third time through the batting order for Julio Teheran, who's allowed just 2 hits and a walk over the first 5 innings. Curtis Granderson is 0 for 2. Granderson has struck out and grounded out. Curtis's last home run at Citi Field came right before the All-Star break against Julio Teheran.
Is that June 30th?
July 8th.
Okay.
Curtis snapped a long home run drought with a home run in Los Angeles in the last road trip. And now he's got himself a 3-0 count, which has been a favorite one for him. He had a leadoff home run against Dan Herron on Friday night in L.A. after going more than 90 at bats without one. Here's a strike, 3-1. Juan Lagares on deck, then Lucas Duda. Mets have been held to 2 hits so far. A Lagares infield hit and a Wilmer Flores home run. And Granderson pulls one down to Freeman. 1 out. We have a scoreboard item for managers' challenges. I didn't know that.
No. Luckily, none today.
Not so far. Here's Lagares, who topped a roller up the third baseline for an infield hit on the first. Popped up in the third, 1 for 2. Goslin playing well in on the cutout at third this time against Lagares. Sensing perhaps that Lagares might want to bunt his way on in front of Duda. Wouldn't be a bad concept. Off the end of the bat, 0-2. Lagares got off to a very hot start with the bat this year. Had a couple of stints on the disabled list that slowed down his offensive production. This last week has been his best offensive week since very early in the season. And what has really helped Lagares this year to hold his own and raise his offensive game has been his ability to hit with 2 strikes.
Well, I just think at some point, when I see him just miss a fastball, I mean foul it straight back, just because he's a tiny bit late, I think his anticipation powers are going to be much better as he gets a little more experience.
Well, Alex Wood learned last night you may not want to throw him a changeup in the middle of the plate. He crushed that one. Duda on deck, Darno behind him. 1 out and nobody on, home 6th inning. And the curveball up and in. 2-2 to Lagares.
Tehran tried to throw a fastball in 0-2, missed. Tried to throw a slider 1-2 and now has missed. Gaddis going through a series of signs. Looks like he's going to try to dot a fastball away.
This with it, 3-2. And Tehran a little unhappy with himself. He's walked only 1 tonight. That was Flores in the 5th. He struck out 4, allowed 1 run and 2 hits. Trying for his 13th win of the year and his 3rd in a row. What do you want? I want the slider. Okay. And Lagares fouls it off.
That was interesting watching those signs because Gaddis gave fastball away. Tehran shook it off. He overruled it and put the fastball down again. Overruled again, this time by Tehran, who wanted the slider. Pitching to Gary Carter all those years, there was never any overruling. That became it.
This will be the 8th pitch of the at bat to Lagares. He fouls away another one. It's a fastball this time. So if nothing else, he's making Tehran work, which few man hitters have tonight. Again, the 3-2. Cracked to deep center field. Upton back. Has room. 2 out. A good turn at bat for Lagares. He hit 395 feet straight away for the 2nd out.
Well, it's kind of where an opposing pitcher took advantage of the Citi Field dimensions. Just challenged him on the outside part of the plate and hoped the ballpark would hold him, and it did.
So 2 out and nobody on. The shift for Lucas Duda, who's 0 for 2 tonight, 0 for 5 in this series so far. Last time up, Tehran threw him nothing but off speed stuff and struck him out. And a first pitch change up for ball 1. Duda hitting 3rd in the order tonight. If you're just joining us, David Wright took batting practice, took ground balls before the game, and was skimmed just foul. Almost got lucky there. David looks like a better bet to me in the lineup tomorrow than Daniel Murphy, who did very little work today on that sore calf.
I think, what was the word? David felt fine today, going through the whole workout. If he feels the same way that he did today when he got to the ballpark, that he'll be in the lineup.
Curveball in for a strike. 1-2 to Duda.
They've gone to the tantalizing mode of pitching to Duda, haven't they?
Wouldn't you?
Yes, it would. Plan B.
Ran the slider in at his feet, and he stopped the swing in time. 2-2. Tehran has retired 12 of the last 13 batters. The only blemish, a walk to Flores with 1 out in the 5th. Tehran, who made his first All-Star game this year. 2-2 to Duda with 2 out. And he popped it up. Simmons alone on the left side of the infield. And he puts it away to retire the side. Another 1-2-3 inning for Tehran. That sends us off to the 7th. Still Braves 3, Mets 1. America's most convenient bank. Jason Hayward, a first inning home run. Wilmer Flores, a second inning home run. A couple of scratch runs for the Braves in the 3rd, and so far that's been enough for Julio Tehran. Zach Wheeler goes back to the mound for the 6th inning at 101 pitches, for the 7th inning at 101 pitches for the night. He'll face 8, 9, and 1 in the Braves batting order. The big hump for Wheeler to get over has been to finish the 7th inning.
Yeah, it has.
Even during this hot streak, he's been hard pressed to go 7. Danny Evelyn and Buddy Carlisle will get ready in the Mets bullpen. Mets are 2 men short in the bullpen tonight, as they are 2 men short in their lineup, with Vic Black and Josh Edgin for the 2nd straight night unavailable. B.J. Upton swings over that first pitch. Upton has drawn an intentional walk and grounded out. The pitcher Tehran on deck, and then Jason Hayward here in the 7th. So here's what's been going on with Wheeler lately. His last 4 starts: in Philly, 6 innings, 3 hits. Against the Cubs, 6 2/3, 4 hits. In Oakland, 5 2/3, 4 hits. Tonight, he's only allowed 4 hits. So in the last 4 starts, he's only allowed 15 hits, but 13 walks.
Well, that's where the whip comes in. You combine those walks and hits, innings pitched, and
that's also where the pitch count goes up.
Pitch count goes up, and you're in trouble.
And that keeps him from going 7. Would love to get through this inning and change that theme. The only time he's gone as many as 7 innings this year was the game he went 9 in Miami back in June. 2-2. Upton fouls one off his leg.
I made a quick count, so if I'm off 1, I apologize, but I believe 8 times he's gone 6 2/3. So that's You know, that's 1 out away from having 7s on that list of starts this year.
Well, there you go. 13 times he's thrown 108 pitches and not gone 7, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Leiter was another guy who, especially in the Mets portion of his career, walked a lot of hitters, built up high pitch counts. And slider just off the plate to B.J. Upton, 3-2.
They would let Al, though, throw 125 plus, wouldn't they? More.
In Game 5 of the World Series, he threw 142.
See?
That's strike 3 called. So Upton is caught looking on a 3-2 slider. 7 strikeouts for Wheeler.
It was interesting. The pitch before it I thought was a real good pitch. This was kind of a hanging slider, and the hanging slider gets called for the strike.
It all evens out.
That's what they keep telling me anyway.
Here's Julio Teheran, rounded out and struck out 0 for 2. And a chopper for Tejada. This one stays in his glove. 2 out. Tejada had a ball roll out of his glove on a similar play earlier in the game, and it cost Wheeler a run. So Teheran can rest up for his 7th inning as Jason Hayward takes his time getting to the batter's box. You don't see this as much anymore. The leadoff hitter delaying to get to the batter's box to give the pitcher a chance to sit down.
Well, you don't have to because of us.
Because the breaks are longer?
The breaks are longer in between innings.
It still seems like with all the time that's wasted in baseball, it seems like a good teammate kind of thing to do.
Courteous.
Right. Good to know courtesy isn't dead. Hayward delivered the keynote tonight with a leadoff home run against Wheeler. 2nd time he's done that to Zach this year, and he takes a first pitch curve for a strike. Since then, Hayward has grounded out twice. The way we talk so much about Wheeler and his pitch counts, worth noting that Teheran, when he grounded out just now, was the first 1-pitch batter of the game against Wheeler. He needs a few more of those.
Well, he's a strikeout pitcher. Strikeout pitchers are going to have higher pitch counts. Teheran not as much.
Smash to second. Flores handles it, and Wheeler gets through the 7th for only the 2nd time this season. He's retired the last 7, but the Mets down 3-1 at the 7th inning stretch. He settled in and pitched awfully well tonight. Of course, the reason not to smile is that his team's down 3-1 as we go to the bottom of the 7th.
My favorite part is the manager still coaching and teaching.
Jerry's Familia, who got 4 outs last night, is going to be called upon again tonight. They've been talking about backing off Familia a little bit because he's had so much work, but with the Mets too shy in the bullpen again tonight, that may not be possible. Travis d'Arnaud leads off against Julio Teheran, who's retired 13 of the last 14 batters. d'Arnaud has popped up and grounded out tonight 0 for 2 and takes the curveball high for ball 1. d'Arnaud, Campbell, and Dendecker will try and get something going for the Mets in the 7th. The Mets have had just 2 hits, an infield hit for Lagares in the first, a home run off the bat of Flores in the second, and that's it. And the curveball rolled to the left side underneath Goslin, but Simmons with a strong arm, and he got him. Andrelton Simmons showing off the platinum and the howitzer to boot.
Well, they always used to talk about Simmons when he was a pitcher could throw 95 miles an hour. He lets one go here, but it's even better play to me by Freeman. He gets there, he sets himself, but spikes it, and that's an in-between hop at 90 plus. And Freeman has showed, as he gets as low as he can with his backside, to go from, as Keith always talks about, bottom to top with that glove.
And Teheran appreciative. So there's the first out in the home 7th. And now Eric Campbell, who's been up twice and flied out both times, and he takes a slider off the plate for ball 1. Campbell now hitless in his last 10 at bats, making his 31st start tonight. Campbell's numbers have been about the same against lefties and righties after a very fast start against left-handers. But so far, Teheran has held him in check tonight. Beats him with that fastball, and it's 1-2. Denard Span just homered for the Nationals. They lead in Philly 4-2 in the 5th. Phillies beat them last night.
Won the first 2, right?
Yep. Line base hit. So Eric Campbell takes care of that 0 for 10 and nearly took out Teheran for his troubles. So the Mets have just their 3rd hit of the night. Incoming.
Teheran gets out of the way, and that ball just barely missed the second base bag. Bullet just to the left of it.
So that'll get the tying run to the plate for the Mets in the 7th with Matt Dendecker. Dendecker is flied out and struck out 0 for 2. Decker's 85 at bats deep into his big league season without a home run. He had 1 last year in his first major league trial. But he's a guy who was known for his power in the minor leagues. What was interesting when he first came up this year was how much shorter his stroke was. Not really looking as much to hit home runs. David Carpenter, first man up in the Atlanta bullpen.
Well, his batting eye was very good on those first 2 changeups just out of the strike zone for Teheran.
Campbell at first and 1 out. Now Teheran has got that move that the Mets have suspected was a balk move.
And what does he do? He sometimes bends that front knee. See that front knee? How it bends before he turns the throw? You're not supposed to do that. That's deceiving the runner. It is a balk move.
He's got 5 pickoffs this year as a result of that move. Carlisle and Familia up in the bullpen. But he's only been called for 1 balk. And that goes back to, I think, if you do the same thing every time, they don't call it.
Well, it's a very quick move, but you are not allowed to bend that front knee. And watch how stiff he keeps it. That's why he has to bend it to throw over.
3-0 pitch down the middle for a strike. Three and one to Dendecker. And Matt fouls it back. Had a good hack at that.
Well, this is just Tehran challenging Dendecker right there. Just maybe kept it a little away and a little bigger swing from Dendecker.
And I think we've seen that progression over the last couple of weeks. And swing's starting to get bigger again. 3-2 with one out. Dendecker, who was not striking out much when he first came back, has been striking out more the last week or so. We'll see if Campbell is allowed to run here. Tehran has struck out 4 tonight, including Dendecker his last time up.
Gaddis kept calling for the sinker away. Tehran doesn't want it.
Not running. And it's too high, ball 4, and now the tying runs are on base. Only the second walk of the night given up by Tehran.
Well, when you're in the stretch and you have a stiff front leg like that, you've got to bend it either to throw home or to throw to first base. So that is an awfully high leg kick to throw the ball home, but he knew the runner was not going with a 2-run deficit for the Mets.
Freddie Gonzalez is on his way out to the mound. He's got David Carpenter ready in the bullpen, and it looks like Carpenter is coming in the game. So Tehran is out after 101 pitches over 6 1/3. Wilmer Flores, who homered against him earlier tonight, will be coming up. Call to the bullpen brought to you by McDonald's. There's something for everyone to love at McDonald's. As he comes in with 2 men on. Mets down 3-1 in the 7th. Wilmer Flores the batter. Flores homered back in the 2nd. And he takes Lowen away from Carpenter, ball 1.
And Carpenter had a brilliant season last year during the regular season for the Braves. He's a guy that can strike you out 59 and 48 innings this year, but also get a ground ball with that tough slider.
He's given up more hits than innings pitched this year. 53 hits in 48 innings. But he doesn't walk many. That fastball, though, off the plate is behind on Flores, 2-0. A 1-out single off the bat of Campbell after Simmons and Freeman hooked up on a terrific play to retire d'Arnaud to start the inning. Otherwise, this could be a bigger mess. A walk to Dendecker, and now Flores trying to cash in. And Wilmer fouls away the fastball. 2-1.
Well, yesterday was Juan Lagares' day. Maybe today is Wilmer Flores' day. All out cut there.
He seems to lose his balance a lot in the batter's box.
It's almost like he's leaning forward over the plate when he swings. See the defense. Simmons is holding the runner close at second base.
Campbell not a base stealing threat by any means.
Stella now close.
2-2 to Flores. Ruben Tejada on deck. Julio Teheran threw 101 pitches over 6 1/3, 3 hits, 1 run so far, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a home run, and now all he can do is watch and see if Carpenter can help him out. David Carpenter, a Mountaineer from West Virginia University. 2-2 to Flores. Popped it up. Infield fly rule will be invoked. The batter is out. Freeman squeezes it 2 away. So it's left to Ruben Tejada with 2 out and 2 on. Ruben tonight has struck out and fly to right. Ruben getting his 3rd straight start tonight. Hit a home run in Los Angeles, have an RBI hit his first at bat last night, but he made a key error in this game to bring in the 3rd Atlanta run, and he'd love to redeem himself for that right here. Kirk Neuenhuis out on deck to pinch hit if Tejada is able to keep the inning going. And the slider a half swing, and he went around. Mark Wagner with the call, 0-1.
That was the right call. We've seen this play called mostly by the home plate umpire, but Klinsky did not, and you can see he went around.
Whether the 9th spot comes to bat or not, Wheeler appears to be done for the night. He got the handshakes and the conversation and the debriefing when he came in after the 7th, but even that, a nice accomplishment for Zach, who had only gone through 7 one prior time this year.
His best game of the season.
Was that 1-0 shutout against the Marlins. So a lot to feel good about, but his 6-game winning streak is on the line. Campbell and Dendecker aboard with 2 down. Gaddis just made a trip to the mound to talk to Carpenter. Gaddis calls time again. He's got some kind of miscommunication going on.
Well, Carpenter is trying to go and pitch a little quicker, and Gaddis has not been ready to receive the baseball, which is very unusual. See, what happened there is Gaddis went out and talked about the pitch. So Carpenter said, "This is the pitch I want to throw," and then Gaddis went back, and Carpenter was ready to go, saying, "We've already talked about the pitch." But then Gaddis said, "No, we need to go through a series of signs still." And I don't know if he put down the right pitch after that.
Ronnie, if they ever put in speed up rules, the one rule that has to be in before any other is you can't make 2 trips to the mound without throwing a pitch.
I agree.
I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Tejada, by the way, 2 for 3 in his career against Carpenter. 2 on and 2 out, and Ruben taps one foul, and now it's 0-2. Carpenter ahead in the count, and a late swing foul. 97 from Carpenter off the fists of Tejada.
Well, we always used to preface when we talked about David Carpenter that he used to be a catcher. We don't do it anymore. He's become a full-fledged big part of that Atlanta bullpen.
Started out his career in Houston, went to Toronto, now in his 2nd year with the Braves. Tejada trying to come through down on the count. and lays off the breaking ball in the dirt. 1-2. Terry Collins said, "I've had multiple conversations with Tejada over the last 3 weeks since he lost his job. Every time Tejada sits down, when he comes back into the lineup, he seems to do something good." And Terry said, "Play that way every day." Well, this would be a good spot for it. Here's the 1-2. Grounded softly. Goslin again can't get it, but Simmons does. And Tejada retired to end the inning. Twice in that inning, Goslin had a ball go under his glove, and twice Simmons was there. That was the first out of the inning, the play of the game, brought to you by the 2014 Mazda 3 with seamless connectivity. Ball is brought to you by TD Bank, America's most convenient bank. Buddy Carlisle will take over the pitching for the Mets as we go to the 8th inning.
Well, he's become kind of the long man, hasn't he, for this Mets bullpen? His last 2 appearances have been 2 innings each.
So a couple of innings in Los Angeles on Sunday with the Mets sporting a big lead. Got a couple of terrific defensive plays made behind him, including Eric Young crashing into the fence in the left field corner to make a grab.
Did Buddy begin his season in Atlanta as a Brave? Begin his career, sorry, as a Brave?
I don't think he started as a Brave. I think he started in San Diego, but I think he's pitched more games for the Braves than he has for any other big league team. Phil Goslin will lead off, 1 for 3 on the night, and takes off the outside corner from Carlisle. And Earl L. Carlisle throws a fastball for a strike, 1-1. Freddie Freeman on deck, then Justin Upton. Carlisle first came up with the Padres in '99. Pitched briefly for the Dodgers in '05, landed with the Braves in '07, and pitched parts of 3 years for Atlanta. Then a brief stint with the Yankees in 2011, and then didn't get back to the big leagues till earlier this year. And he has done a nice job. And Goslin goes around in the half swing, and Carlisle has a strikeout to start his stint.
Now, Goslin never felt comfortable at that at bat. It's almost like Carlisle was rushing him every time he got in the box because Carlisle delivers that ball so quickly.
So 1 out and nobody on. Here's Freeman, who doubled and scored a run in the Braves' 2-run 3rd inning. That's when they took the lead. It was a bunt single by Goslin that got it started. Then Freeman was behind in the count 0-2 and hit one into the left field corner for a double. A ground out produced 1 run, an error produced a second, and that's the difference in the game. Carlisle took something off. 1-1. Justin Upton waits on deck.
We talk about hitters all the time who step out of the box. Freeman's not one of them. He just stays in there and is ready to go.
Well, how come he doesn't have to readjust his batting gloves?
Would you readjust if you hit 300 all the time?
Plenty of guys do. Of course, Evan Gattis doesn't have to readjust his batting gloves.
No gloves.
Doesn't wear any. We're going to have to do a whole game where we monitor hitters and how much time they take, and monitor pitchers and how much time they take. These are two guys in a hurry. Flores makes the toss to get Freeman for the second out. Here's your Hyundai drive around the majors. Denard Span hit an upper deck home run in Philadelphia, and that's up 4-2 in the 6th. David Price gave up 9 straight hits in an 8-run inning, and the Yankees lead the Tigers 8-1 in the 6th. And Jorge Soler hit a home run in his first major league at bat for the Cubs. Welcome to the big leagues, but the Reds lead 6-2 in the 7th. Here's Justin Upton, who's 0 for 3, drove in a run with a ground out. That was the go-ahead run in the 3rd. And we commented at the time, Upton 2nd and 3rd, 1 out, 1-2 count. Guy who has struck out in a lot of those spots this year as Jordan Walden gets up in the bullpen, but he made enough contact, and that could win a game for Atlanta.
Yeah, the Mets gave him the run, and he took it. I say that was the correct defensive play to play anyway, but Zach, when he looks back on that, needed a strikeout or a pop-up in that situation. Didn't happen, though. Good hitting by Upton.
And we talk about how you win in the postseason. So many games are decided just that way, right? The team that can execute, advance a runner, make contact instead of striking out in a key spot.
Both teams played in the World Series who were best at it last year. Red Sox and the Cardinals.
Upton off the end of the bat to center, and Lagares measures it. Side retired, so Carlisle comes in, throws a 1-2-3 inning. 3-1 Atlanta in the 8th.
He had a clean inning last night, but Eric Young Jr. led off the inning with a line drive to center field that was right at Emilio Bonifacio.
And it's going to be EY Jr. to lead off for the Mets. Pinch hitting in the bottom of the 8th. Young, Granderson, and Lagar. Speaking of Youngs, by the way, did you see that Chris Young has found work? Signed a minor league contract with the Yankees today.
I was going to say he's been with Seattle all year. What are you talking about?
So now both former Met Chris Youngs are employed.
They sent him to Scranton, but I don't know how many days are left in those minor leagues.
Usually play through Labor Day, but then you have playoffs.
Okay.
Of course, probably add him to the roster once the rosters expand on Monday. Corners in against EY, who hit that bullet to center last night against Walden, and he takes up and away for ball 1. Mets have been held to just 3 hits tonight. The Braves have just 4. And Young takes a fastball for a strike, 1-1. Henry Mejia starting to loosen. He would only come in if the Mets tie or take the lead here in the 8th. Carlos Torres getting ready in case they don't.
We've seen Mejia get a little better at that, haven't we? I mean, when he first started out there, he was right on that mound throwing pellets straight away. But now it's pretty calm out there, waiting for the second call, the real call.
Got to learn how to save them. 1-2. Pulled toward the hole. That gets through for a base hit. So Eric Young Jr. didn't hit it as hard as he did last night against Walden, but a better result. And the Mets will get the tying run to bat here in the 8th.
What's interesting is prior pitch was in the dirt. This one he couldn't double up on it. And in defense mode, Young just trying to put the ball into play. He gets himself a base hit.
So now it's Granderson tying run at the plate in a 3-1 game. Curtis is 0 for 3 tonight, just 7 for his last 60. And it goes to the backstop. That'll move Young to second. Wild pitch charged to Jordan Walden. And the Mets have a runner in scoring position.
This was the wildest pitch, not even a wild pitch, of the entire season. Fastball, supposed to be away, and the ball travels what, 50 feet?
Into the wild. Granderson flied out against Walden last night. Juan Lagares on deck. Behind him, Lucas Duda. So barring a double play, Duda's going to get a chance to bat in this inning, with the Mets trying to come from behind late. Off speed outside. 2-0.
I think when you're playing the Braves, don't you have to think that this is the vulnerable inning? You have to at least tie it up here.
Well, you certainly don't want to face Kimbrel behind in the 9th. Now it's 3-0. So Walden working for the second straight night and not looking sharp. There's nobody up in the Atlanta bullpen.
There will be.
Roger McDowell is just about to reach for the phone. There he is, phone in hand. Three 3-0 to Granderson. Would he swing here?
No.
Ball 4. And now the tying runs are on with nobody out.
Well, Roger McDowell's got to come out and talk to Walden here, of 2 reasons. One, because he's lost, and second, because they have to get a pitcher up, get him loose.
Luis Avilan, the left-hander, is about to start throwing. Anthony Barbaro, the New York kid, has already begun to throw. And here comes McDowell to buy them some time.
It's the hardest part of managing, isn't it? That you set up the game, or your team has set up the game in such a way that you're managing now by outs. And in 8 pitches by Walden, it's changed everything. Turned it upside down.
While they speak at the mound, Juan Lagares and Tim Tuffle talking along the third base line. Now, you could have them bunt here, but that means they probably not pitch to Duda.
Well, we've seen this happen earlier in the season, just a couple of weeks ago, and they had Lagares bunting, and he didn't come through. I look at it this way late in the season. You know, you can manage for the tie. This is one of your hottest hitters. I'd let him swing the bat.
So Lagares at the plate, Duda on deck, tying runs aboard and nobody out. Good speed, great speed at second, good speed at first. And Lagares takes a fastball for a strike and no hit to the bunt. Was that his one pitch?
Sometimes it is. They'll give him one strike. I think if they'd given him a one strike, you'd have been a little more aggressive on that first pitch fastball.
He lines one, base hit. Here comes Young around third. Young coming to the plate. Stopping at second is Granderson. It's now a 3-2 game. Juan Lagares comes through with an RBI single. They let him swing, and he hit a bullet.
Well, the defense, Tommy La Stella had to be shading towards first just in case the bunt was put on. That cost him. This ball right up the middle is a play that if he's in double play depth, probably catches in the air.
So now the Mets with a run home in the bottom of the eighth. Nobody out. The tying run Granderson at second. The potential go-ahead run Lagares at first. And Lucas Duda stepping in. And he grounds a double play ball right at La Stella. Simmons with the turn for the 4-6-3 double play. So Walden, who was up against the ropes, gets exactly what he needed. The double play for the first two outs.
It's not even that he was up against the ropes. This happened so quickly. I don't think Luis Avilan could get ready in time, and he had to leave Walden in to face Duda.
So now two out. Granderson is at third carrying the tying run, and Travis d'Arnaud will try and pick up Duda. d'Arnaud is 0 for 3 tonight, a pop-up and 2 groundouts. Mets have a run home here in the eighth. A run shy with the tying run at third. And d'Arnaud grounds one toward the hole. Backhanded by Simmons. The jump throw. He got him. Unbelievable play by Andrelton Simmons to keep the Braves in the lead. That's why they hand out the platinum. You can't make a better play as a shortstop, and that one saved the tying run. He is a magnificent defensive shortstop, and he showed every reason why there. Looked like he was going through the hole. He makes the stop and the perfect one-hop throw, and d'Arnaud is out, and the Braves lead 3-2 going to the ninth. Is brought to you by your local Tri-State Kia retailers. Visit TriStateKiaDealers.com to learn more. Ninth inning, 3-2 Atlanta. Carlos Torres takes over the pitching for New York.
Well, what a job he has done for this ball club. He has been the swingman extraordinaire, no more so than when he made those 5 shutout innings in place of Bartolo Colon, who had to leave the ball club. He'll do anything you tell him to do. That's the kind of unselfishness you've gotten from Torres all season.
So what do you think is fair? To call Andrelton Simmons the Lagares of shortstops, or to call Lagares the Andrelton Simmons of center fielders?
Who has more time?
Well, Simmons
They're about
does.
the same. Not too much, though, right?
It says a little bit more. But I think what's great is that both these players are the elite at their position. They're both young, and they'll be facing each other for a long time to come. Evan Gattis leads off in the 9th inning. Gattis drills one to left field. That'll beat Dendecker and go off the base of the wall. Dendecker plays the Karen perfectly, and he'll hold Gattis to a single. Beautifully done by Dendecker. And Gattis had no choice but to stop at first base.
Well, just a line drive. Nice play by Dendecker. Hits the bottom of the fence. Just gets it in quickly. So that way, Gattis, he's thinking double all the way, but when he sees the ball coming in, as soon as he rounds first, there's nothing he can do. Nice defensive play by Dendecker. Good hitting by Gattis.
Gattis will leave for a pinch runner. Emilio Bonifacio will run for him. So Bonifacio, a base stealer, on at first with nobody out, and Tommy La Stella coming up, and we'll see how the Braves choose to play it. La Stella has doubled, walked, and grounded out, 1 for 2. Got a lot of choices here. La Stella handles the bat well. They could bunt, they could play hit and run, they could steal a base.
And Torres does what he's supposed to do. And this, he should hold the ball a little longer. See the defense now. Dude's going to hold him on. Flores not shaded as much to first as La Stella was in the previous inning, but hold the ball a little longer to see if La Stella tips his hand.
Nothing on in the first pitch. Ball 1 high. Bonifacio stole a base last night, his 18th of the year. He started and played center field.
You know, Gary, I don't think right now, if you're scouting the Mets, they've proven to you with d'Arnaud behind the plate that they can throw out the runners. So the steal, I think, is a play that Gonzalez is going to want to see Bonifacio try.
But La Stella flies one deep to left center. Lagares back near the wall, runs it down. Trying to get back is Bonifacio, and he makes it safely. Well, Simmons made your eyes pop in the last half inning. Lagares smashes him.
I mean, playing so shallow on La Stella. Had to go about, looked like 20 to 30 yards. And he has no fear of that wall. One step and bounces off it. Nothing Bonifacio can do. He's got to assume every center fielder in baseball, most center fielders in baseball do not make that play. Lagares did.
Well, we're getting to watch the best defensive shortstop and the best defensive center fielder in the game today. And they each just showed off their wares. And that can only make Simmons smile to watch what Lagares just did. Simmons is 0 for 3 ground ball outs tonight, and he takes a big cut and fouls it off. Well, 2 players who their teams hope can find the offense to match their defense. Last year, Simmons looked like that guy. But this year, his offense has taken a step back, while Lagares has taken a step forward.
You know, when you just watch him, we don't watch him play enough. But, you know, his swing is just a little too big. And he's going to have to cut down. But
double play ball right to Flores. Tejada with the turn. 4-6-3 double play. So helped out by the glove of Lagares. Torres negotiates the top of the 9th. Now Campbell will lead off in the bottom. that Gaddis had come out for a pinch runner, so he is just getting himself together. Doesn't have his catching equipment on yet. He's the only backup catcher the Braves have, so there really wasn't much of a choice. Meanwhile, Craig Kimbrell is getting himself ready on the mound as he bids for the save opportunity tonight.
Laird's probably saying, what do you want me to do? I had to be down there to catch. You had 2 pitchers up, ready to go. Kimbrell's numbers are like they always are. Strikes out the world, 84 punch outs and 51 innings pitched. The walks are up a little bit for Kimbrell, but I mean, that's hard to pick anything bad with him.
Be sure to tune in on Saturday when the Mets take on the Phillies here at Citi Field. Mets versus Phillies this Saturday at 7 on New York's Pix 11. I should parenthetically add the Braves do have another catcher in Ryan Domit, but he doesn't catch much anymore.
He's more of the guy off the bench, the pinch hit.
Play a little right field for you if necessary. Eric Campbell will lead off in the 9th inning against Kimbrell. Campbell, Dendecker, and Flores due up. Mets are 2 players short. Murphy and Wright unavailable. That leaves only Neuenhuis and Recker left on the bench. Mets got a run in the 8th inning. Might have tied it up, but for the defensive wizardry of Andrelton Simmons. And after the Mets won 3-2 last night, Kimbrell trying to nail down a 3-2 win for the Braves tonight. Campbell had a base hit his last time up, whistling one past the ear of Tehran into center field. And he hits the first pitch foul at 97, 0-1. Tehran went 6 1/3, allowed a run on 3 hits. He's in line for his 13th win. There's Dendecker on deck. David Carpenter came in to get 2 big outs in the 7th. Jordan Walden struggled mightily, gave up a run, but was able to hold it in the 8th. And now Kimbrell. And a good breaking ball to get him ahead on Campbell 0-2.
So if the 3 hitters up in this inning, Campbell has not faced Kimbrell. Flores has not faced Kimbrell. Dendecker's only faced him once. That's not good.
So they don't know they can't hit him.
You're so positive. You're such a positive person by nature.
They should all go and talk to David Wright, who hit one 455 feet to right center against Kimbrell last year. 1-2 to Campbell. And he lays off the curveball. 2-2. The third baseman, Goslin, who doesn't have a lot of experience at that position, is practically standing on the line.
I mean, how many balls do you think are pulled off Kimbrell in the season?
Thing is, anything to his left, Simmons will get it.
That's
2-2 coming to Campbell. Low and away. Good patience by Eric. He was behind in the count. Now it's 3-2. Campbell asking for time. Braves have led this game since the 3rd inning when they scratched out a couple of runs against Zach Wheeler. Mets trying to get Wheeler off the hook, keep his winning streak intact. Down a run in the 9th. 3-2. Campbell takes one the other way, and Hayward will have to play it on the hop. And the Mets have the tying run aboard to start the 9th. Second straight hit for Eric Campbell. That's a great at bat.
beautiful hitting by Campbell. Fastball away on a 3-2 count. Doesn't try to do too much with it. And Hayward playing no doubles deep in right field. Ball drops in front of him.
We have seen Hayward dive for balls like that and make extraordinary plays, but that wasn't the spot for it. You don't want to give up a triple in that situation. Remember the play made on Justin Turner last year to end a game here?
In the rain. Kimbrell on the mound.
Here's Dendecker. 0 for 2 and a walk. You got Flores on deck. Goslin playing in as though he's expecting a bunt from Dendecker. Not bunting, and he takes the fastball outside. So that's twice now in the last 2 innings that Terry Collins has disdained the bunt with one of his young players at the plate.
Well, I think it's to me, it's a little bit of a philosophy change. Let's see what these young players can do.
Well, Lagares came through in that spot in the 8th inning. We'll see if Dendecker can do the same with Flores on deck. Campbell not a base stealer. He has 1 this year. And Dendecker takes low and in, 2-0.
The Mets haven't walked off Kimbrel in his career.
Campbell the tying run at first with nobody out. Kimbrel behind on Dendecker, 2-0. And Matt takes outside, ball 3. Flores on deck, Tejada behind him, and only Neuenhuis and Recker left in the dugout. You got to save Neuenhuis for that 9-hole. So I wonder whether that means they would let Dendecker swing here. 3-0 coming from Kimbrel. He takes it, 3-1.
Looked like he was taken all the way, right? We mentioned the numbers by Kimbrel, all off the charts, but I mentioned also that's the only thing that's a little different this year. Walks are up.
That condor pose on the mound. 3-1 to Dendecker. And he takes a strike. That was not a strike most of the night, but Andy Fletcher gave it to Kimbrel there.
Boy, that's a tough one to take if you're a hitter. I think Dendecker's taking a nice at bat. I think this ball runs off the outside corner and high. See how Laird kind of adjusts it. Over top, though.
I think I said Andy Fletcher. That's Mike McClinsky behind the plate, calling that a strike. Now it's 3-2. Campbell not likely to be running, and he's not. And that's inside, ball 4. And now the Mets have the tying and potential winning runs on base with nobody out. So now what do? You got Flores at the plate, Tejada behind him, and then Neuenhuis to pinch hit. Do you have Flores bunt? Do you let him swing away?
Again, Gary, I am in the swing away mode. The philosophy of let's see what these young players can do in the heat of battle.
Also, you got Kimbrel struggling to throw strikes, and he's not easy to bunt, that's for sure. Well, Freeman is way in on the grass expecting the bunt. I got a feeling you're right, Ronnie. That's the way the Mets and Terry Collins have played this game all night.
Just in this game, and maybe it's because of Wright and Murphy out of the lineup.
Campbell at second, Dendecker at first, nobody out, and Flores does square, gets it down. Kimbrel's play will have to go to first, and now the tying and winning runs are in scoring position with 1 out. 1-4 on the sacrifice, and Tejada will come up with second and third and 1 out. And now, of course, the decision for Freddie Gonzalez is, and I don't think it's even a consideration here, do you walk Tejada to pitch to Neuenhuis? I don't think so.
Absolutely not. You pitch to Tejada here.
Tejada has the last 2 walk-off hits for the Mets. And the Braves are going to bring the infield in. How about that? Talk about tempting fate. A hit past the drawn-in infield means the Mets win.
We've seen this twice in the last couple of weeks. Matt Williams did it with the Nationals also.
So Freddie Gonzalez really rolling the dice here by bringing the infield in. Campbell the tying run at third. Dendecker the winning run at second. And Tejada grounds one slowly. Goslin coming home for the tag play. That's the second out. So it paid off for the Braves. They played the infield in. Campbell running on contact, and he's tagged out 5-2 for the second out.
Well, not a lot of experience, but you see Laird, his foot there. I guess a smidgen of room, but the ball beats him by so much. He's dead by 15 feet or so.
And he kept his foot in front of the plate till he had the ball, then moved it into blocking position. That's perfect execution.
Veteran move.
According to the new rule. So now the Mets are down to their final out. They've got the tying run at third, the potential winning run at first, and Kirk Neuenhuis, who's been outstanding as a pinch hitter, coming up to bat against Kimbrel. So it comes down to this. Neuenhuis 0 for 1 against Kimbrel in his career. Well, it paid off for Matt Williams when he brought the infield in a similar spot, and it pays off, at least for the moment, for Freddie Gonzalez. Dendecker at third, Tejada at first, and 2 out. And Neuenhuis takes a strike at 97 miles an hour.
Fastball, I think it catches the corner. Is it down? Framed nicely by Laird. Upton, the only outfielder, gave us a shot before, playing pretty shallow in left field.
Neuenhuis looks one foul. That'll go out of play. And now the Mets are down to their final strike. Dendecker at third, Tejada at first, 2 out, bottom of the ninth, 3-2 Atlanta. Oh, and 2 to Neuenhuis. Up and away at 100 miles an hour. Kimbrel trying to put the final nail in and overthrew that pitch. Curtis Granderson would be next. Braves 3 runs, 5 hits. The Mets 2 runs and 6 hits. Mets rallied for a run in the 8th. Knocking on the door in the 9th. But now down to their final strike. 1-2. Up and away again. 2-2. He certainly doesn't look his sharpest.
No, and that's the book on Neuenhuis. You get ahead of him, you're trying to get him to chase something upstairs. But Kirk has been better than that, especially as a pinch hitter.
Two from Kimbrel. Missed inside. 3-2. So now Tejada will have the automatic start from first, and that will make a huge difference on a ball hit in the gap. Dendecker the tying run at third. Tejada representing the winning run at first.
All fastballs so far. Is this where he chooses to throw the 3-2 slider?
Neuenhuis bounces one foul and will do it again. 98 on the fastball that time. He's thrown a couple of triple digits in this at bat. Neuenhuis, who has made a nice transition into being a player off the bench, trying to come through again in a pinch hitting role.
Boy, they have Freeman holding Tejada on. I'd play behind him, left-handed hitter up, just to give you a little more room defensively.
Tejada will be running. 3-2 to Neuenhuis. Popped it up. Simmons with the angle. Upton coming in. And it's Upton to end the ball game. Well, the Mets get a run in the 8th, threatened in the 9th, but ultimately an unbelievable defensive play by Andrelton Simmons turns out to be the difference in the game. And the Braves hang on to win 3-2 to even up the series at a game apiece.
Well, Terry Collins decided late to bunt Flores, who had a home run in the game, and Tejada and the pinch hitter could not come through. Earlier in the game for Zach Wheeler, he's had trouble in the first inning, gave up another run. That's 15 runs now in 27 innings pitched for Wheeler in the first.
Wheeler got through 7 for only the second time this year, gave up just 2 earned runs, but that guy's great play against Travis d'Arnaud to end the 8th, kept the tying run off the board, and the Braves hang on to win. The game summary brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Julio Teheran gets his 3rd straight win, his 13th of the year. Zach Wheeler's 6-game winning streak comes to an end. He is 9-9. Braves win at 3-2. More coming up from Citi Field in just a moment.